They just had the Global Drucker Forum in Vienna, and I honor Peter Drucker. He was a brilliant thinker about leadership and management. I love this quote by him: "The important and difficult job is never to find the right answers. It's to find the right questions." And then he said there's few things that are as useless, if not dangerous, as the right answer to the wrong question. If there's anything a CFO can do, from my perspective, this is the work. Because asking the right questions are like keys that open doors. Now, how many of you have a problem? Let's put personal problems aside. How many of you have a problem that you're really wrestling with, you're trying to get an answer to at work? You don't have a solution. Would everybody fit that category? If you don't, I don't know where your brain is. But anyway, it's like we all have problems like that. Now, here's my proposal. The reason that problem exists, in the spirit of Peter Drucker, is that the problem is attached to the questions we're asking today. And if we want to get a new solution, what do we have to do? We have to be asking different questions. It's easy to say that, but it's really hard to do it. And that's why we're stuck. And so, have you ever been in those meetings when you're wrestling with one of those difficult, vexing problems, and you've wrestled at it for hours and perhaps several meetings, and you're still stuck? If you're in that moment, here's what I suggest you do, is you do a process. It's a methodology that is different than probably what you've ever done before. We call it catalytic questioning. And it's essentially, you've got a problem, and imagine brainstorming nothing but questions about the problem. Has anybody ever done that? Did it make a difference in you seeing the problem in a different way? I can see your head going, yep. So here's what it is. It's like, okay, we're sitting there, get a flip chart, get away from the table, get a whiteboard, ask nothing but questions. And if you've got a serious problem, I'd do 75 questions, frankly. I'd really work at this. Number them, write them down. As managers, when someone asks a question, what's the natural response for us? Answer it. What I want you to do, if you use this methodology, is do not do that. Because any answer that comes instantly to these questions is the wrong answer. Almost always. We already know it. We're looking for the right question. So no answers. The other piece is, I might say right now, any questions? And then someone in the back raises their hand, they stand up, and then they talk for 15 minutes before they ask their question. You know those situations? Don't do that either. No answers, no preambles, just the question. Drop them, drop them, drop them. The whole point here is we're searching for the right question. One that's surprising, one that's uncomfortable, one that might cause us to get some better data here. So we're going to try it. This is a problem that I encounter in a lot of senior executives' worlds. And it is the problem of I just don't have the time to discover and deliver disruptive ideas. It's the future-forward CFO dilemma of I just don't have time for this. We're going to do this catalytic questioning real fast right now at your tables. You've got some paper. You've got a pen, you've got a group of people. One person is the scribe. One list, one person. I'm going to give you 4 minutes to ask as many questions as you possibly can about this issue. It's like, why does this problem exist? What's the potential solution? If you're doing your job well, in other words, no answers are percolating at your table, no preambles are percolating the questions, you're just asking questions. Your table will get at least 20 questions in the next 4 minutes, at least. If you're a lot fewer than that, you're talking too much. You're avoiding the issue. Don't do that. Let's see which table can get the most questions in 4 minutes about this issue. Ready? Go. Okay, well done. Well done. Now, here's what I want you to do. When you generate a list like this, it's not just about generating lots of questions, but it's actually deciding which of these questions are worth my time in personally going out and collecting some primary data. Not stuff other people are giving to me, but me personally out there collecting some important information. So at your table, I'm going to give you 2 minutes at most. I'd like you to think through which of all these questions would be worth your time to hopefully solve this problem if you actually went out and collected some data. Okay, just take a minute or two, see which of these questions seem most relevant. Go. How many groups had 20 or more questions? Quite a few. 20, 25 or more? 30 or more? How many did you have as a group? 24. 24. 30? Well done. Here's the issue, is that quantity does matter. It helps for us to get more rather than less. My second question is, how many of you see this problem a little bit differently by just having asked nothing but questions? Raise your hands, please. Can you see what I see? At least half of the hands are up in this room. I don't expect it to always work, but for a 4-minute investment, it helps us see the issue differently enough to go down a different path. It rarely gives the answer, but it can start us down a different direction. I'm going to tell a couple of stories. Before I get to them, let me tell a couple of pieces. This process you just went through, 4 minutes, I do on a regular basis. I do it with professional issues. For example, a year or so ago, I was moderating a panel at the World Economic Forum Davos meeting. And I couldn't quite get it figured out, and the night before I did what you just did about the questions I needed to ask moderating that panel the next day. I had about 20 questions, woke up the next morning, looked through them, 4 or 5 popped out as really key, and it worked pretty well. And all I'm suggesting is, whenever you're stuck, grab somebody and spend 4 minutes doing nothing but what I just said. B. Perez, the far left on your left woman, she's the Chief Sustainability Officer at Coca-Cola. A few weeks ago, I was in Atlanta visiting with her, and B was telling me about a strategic issue she was wrestling with. Another person from Coca-Cola was there sitting at the same table with her, and I said, B, do you have 4 minutes? She's like, yeah, let me explain to you what we might do right now with our time. And I explained it, and she said, let's try it. She was a little bit suspicious, but she was willing to try it. And we literally, sitting there, spent 4 minutes generating nothing but questions about the issue, and it ended up changing her perspective on the problem. The other 2 folks, the guy in the middle, Ahmed Bozer, he's the president of Coca-Cola International. He runs everything for Coke except for the United States. He's Turkish by origin and knows the world, lives in the world, travels the world. One of his teams, strategic level, was wrestling with something. We pulled 30 of them together. We put them in a room, gave them 5 flip charts for different groups of 5 or 6 people, framed the issue, said go at it. 100+ questions for each of those teams. And at the end of that, it changed the way they were looking at the issue and gave them some marching orders for what to do next. The woman on the right, Suri Eberle, Global Human Resources Officer, Global People Officer for Coca-Cola. She had her strategic issue. We met in Tokyo, Japan earlier this year and actually did the same thing with her team. And all I'm suggesting is, whether it be 4 minutes fast like we just did, or the longer version like they did with 75 to 100 questions per issue, it's a mechanism for finding the right question that can be powerful.